Good morning, everyone. We will call our meeting to order, and I understand we have the AG on the WebEx, so we're going to start out with theirs and do deliberation. Are you there? Is there anyone on WebEx with the AG's office?
Mr. Chairman, this is Merle Reed of Legislative Research. It does look like Major Newhold from the Adjutant General's Department is online, so hopefully she can hear us. She may be having some communications issues.
Yes, sir. This is Carrie Beth. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
No problem. And who is this?
This is Major Newhold.
Megan, okay. Megan, we had a few questions and we ran out of time the other day. One of the questions that I have is on the armory in Hays, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
I read where we're talking $18 million, 18.1, and $2.1 million for 15 acres of property. Can you explain why that would be that expensive? That's $140,000 an acre in Hays, Kansas.
Yes, Senator. Thank you for the question. So that is not we don't have a lead on where the land would be at this point. We just looked at land that was currently for sale to try and get a sense of what that cost would be. And we were looking at a location that would have a minimum of 15 acres. So that's just based off of cost of land that was currently for sale in that area.
Well, I would hope that we would look real careful because I've talked to some realtors there in Hays, and you know, when we start offering those kind of prices, it drives everyone's cost up. So, you know, some small business wants to come in there, they can't even begin to compete with those type of numbers. And I guess the other question is, you have $16 million in there for a building of 50,000 square feet. You know, that's another one of them that, you know, over $320 a square foot. Can you explain that?
Sir, I don't have that information this morning, but I can absolutely get that and get it back to you.
Okay, because I'd be interested in, you know, seems to me like, do you have a certain type of building that you have to build, or, you know, can these be steel buildings?
I will check on that as well. I know part of that cost would include our maintenance phase for that, which would have different types of equipment and safety areas within that structure. So let me see if I can get a good summary of what that cost would entail for you.
Okay, other questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and the agency would know better, but just looking at some of the other buildings, the armories are typically fairly specialized structures that require certain hardened specifications related to a federal standard for those readiness centers. They do, as she mentioned, they do inquire substantial maintenance bays to facilitate maintaining the vehicles and equipment. There's often specialized culinary or kitchen space and administrative space. So they are rather specialized buildings.
But as far as the structure that would hold all that, I mean, can they be steel buildings? Do you know, Merrill?
You're asking if they can be like a sort of steel prefabricated building or a...
Yes, a steel fabricated building.
I think they... I couldn't answer that question.
Well, maybe Megan, you could get that information for us.
Yes, sir.
Okay, are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Megan. Was there anyone else there that wanted to speak? Megan?
No, sir. Nope, that's it from us.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Committee? Senator Clayson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the 22 and 23 budgets for the Kansas Adjutant General's Department with a request that information be provided the Senate Ways and Means Committee regarding the armory in Hayes.
A motion, a second. Second by Senator Fagg. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, next we will move on to our deliberation for the Kansas Highway Patrol. And I think we have Colonel Jones is here. And I guess the major's here, so welcome back. Sorry that we couldn't complete this the other day. Few questions for you that I have, and then we'll go to the committee. On the pay increase, Colonel, 3.6 million.
Yes.
Are we going to use this and distribute it according to the pay plan that we put in place in 2015?
Well, that would be what we'd like to do of that right there. However, there was been a recommendation by way of the governor's office there that had distributed it out pretty much a little more heavy on the front end for recruitment and bringing individuals in, and it worked its way down to the point of those that are tenured.
Maybe you could share that particular plan with us, but you know, it seems to me like we better look at retention before we do anything, because everybody in the state, I'd say everybody probably in the country,
Right,
is looking for help.
I would say you're correct on that, sir.
But I just wanted to know on that. And then I also, you know, last year we put additional funds in there for the guards downstairs and the remote scale units, and that was taken out of the budget. I think the governor line itemed or something.
I'm not sure about that right there. I refer to my CFO on that. I'm not quite-
And the reason I'm asking that is I want to make sure that those folks are included in this 3.6.
Yes, they are. This is the 3.6 for the uniform, law enforcement and troopers as we go through here.
Okay, because I just want to make sure that, and you know, it seems to me like there's so few of those. Why haven't we just moved them in with the highway patrol?
Well, that's a good question in that right there. However, where we have this is that the Capitol Police has different duties of those type of things right there. So years ago, when the Highway Patrol brought Capitol Police in, it was designated that they would be different than troopers. So it's been maintained of that situation there. I know there's an ask to have parity with troopers. I think one of the items that comes of that is that their duties are different than what a trooper is. If we were to make them troopers, that becomes the additional cost that comes with that, because there are certain duties that go along that are much different than the Capitol Police or so.
So we've got a different pay plan that you're proposing, or the governor's proposing, and we're going to include them, but we don't know if we're including them. Is that what?
No, the CPP includes Capitol Police. It's for the law enforcement, uniform law enforcement.
It's called CPP?
Yeah, it's the career progression plan.
Okay. And is there a plan in there to bring these folks up to scale like we tried to do last year? And I guess I can talk to your CFO. I mean, if.
Well, when the negotiations are when the bargaining unit makes the plans right, that has been of the past, that they have signed off on the fact that the pay that goes for the Capitol Police as well as for the troopers has been signed off by the union there. So there is an ask or a push by those, particularly of Capitol Police and some others in legislators that have pushed for parity for that right there. And what I would say is that when you have the parity of that right there, there's you don't have the parity of the duties as well.
Yeah, I think that's important that, we've kind of been looking at that the last year, and I don't think it happened. I guess I'd like to know from your CFO.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Sherry Mackey, the CFO for the agency. So what I can tell you about the pay for the Capitol Police last year is the agency was going to absorb the pay increase within what we had already currently in our budget. We weren't asking for additional money, but I think it was recommended by the committee to do that. And I believe that got vetoed because it did not get put into practice. So it wasn't additional money we were getting. We were going to absorb that within the agency.
Okay, thank you. How many open positions do we have?
Presently, I go with my numbers here. We are allocated, when we talk about troopers, presently we have about 471 of troopers. The number that has been there over years has been 525 is what we have been based off of or so. I'm not sure we've ever reached that over the time that I've been there, but it's been a challenge to get there. But Capitol Police, there's 24 Capitol Police, and they are at their limit of their allocations.
Are fully staffed?
Yes. I would say that there's the difference between Capitol area guards and law enforcement. There's a difference there. So there's 24 officers, law enforcement officers. The CAG would be the guards that you might see in various buildings or so, and there's 16 of them or so.
So 16 of the 24 are guard-type positions?
24 plus 16.
Oh,
So
plus
24 law enforcement officers and 16 CAGs. The CAG is many a times those are individuals that might be retirees from other agencies or individuals that are just, I would say, for the security of a building or so. Whereas the law enforcement officers, Capitol Police, have full arrest powers. And I revere them as pretty much as a municipal police department.
So those 24, are they in part of the original?
That's part of the CPP, yes.
So they're just like a regular highway patrolman out here on the highway?
They're law enforcement officers. Again, I say to you, I look to them as a municipal police department, whereas a trooper has certain duties on the highways throughout the full state. Although they are state law enforcement officers, their duties are different, similar to that of a municipal police department.
Okay. Yes, Senator Petty.
So I'm just going to follow up on that so I can, because it will help my thinking. So under the Kansas Highway Patrol, we have the 471
Troopers.
Troopers.
Yes.
And then within the Capitol Police, we have two categories.
Yes.
The Capitol Police, which are law enforcement officers, there's 24 of them.
Yes.
And then we have the CAG, which there are 16 of them.
Currently, yes.
They're not sworn law enforcement officers. They don't have arrest authority.
No, they're separate from that now. What we've done for that is we've made an ask for an increase for them because many of those that have been working with Capitol Police as a CAG have not seen an increase for years. So we've made tried to make for an increase for those individuals with DPS.
They're not part of the CPP?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so but the,
But the police officers or the
officers
Capitol
are-
Police, yes.
as well as your 471?
Troopers, yes, correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the approval of the Kansas Highway Patrol budget for 22 and 23 with the following additions in 22 and 23. A proviso requiring funding law enforcement officers merging into the trooper pay matrix, a proviso to require the 3.6 million be applied to the CPP, and a notation that the Senate Ways and Means Committee review the aircraft purchases and the funding source in the full committee.
Second by Senator Fagg. Discussion? Senator Penny?
Could, Senator Clays, could you go over the, not the aircraft part, but the provisos concerning the pay? I'm sorry, I was not.
Now, right now, there are two pay matrices. There is one for the troopers, and there is one for law enforcement officers, which would be commonly referred to as the Capitol Police. Those are different pay scales. There's a history to that we've gone over in committee previously, where raises were given. They were targeted towards troopers through very ambiguous language in our previous provisos that allowed for the agency to determine where raises went, and the LOEs were left out of those. It's created a distance between them that was unintentional. When there were across-the-board raises, when we did 2.5% raises, the Kansas Highway Patrol was left out of those. So what ended up happening is the Kansas Highway Patrol applied our raises in a new CPP to troopers, not LOEs. Then, to exacerbate the damage, when a across-the-board increase of 2.5% was applied in a subsequent year, the entire KHP was left out of that, which also affected LOEs. So they had insult and then they had injury added on top of that. So what this would do is just simply make that one pay matrix, troopers and LOEs treated equally through that process, and align them, because they already have the same levels. They just simply are on two different matrices.
So in this, I know this is another smaller category, but that CAG, so that's 16, then where do they, is there, under your proviso, is there included funding for that category as well?
So that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for the funding as well. Oh, you mean the capital area guards? Is that what you're asking about? No, that's not included in this. Capital area guards are on a different setup altogether. They're not on a pay matrix like the
Right.
troopers and the LOEs.
Are we?
So they would be covered under the 5% pay increase that is across the board in the governor's budget.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also add, I don't know, to the airplane part, the annual operating budget, I see what went to $1,300,000, or it's been $600,000, why that increase and that kind of thing, might be part of the airplane.
Yeah, and the notation, I would just ask that we review the aircraft purchases in their entirety and the funding source. You know, in previous years, we had looked at state highway fund as being the funding source, and this time around, that was not the case. It's state general fund. So we would want to look at all the options on where to fund that, and that would be a good thing to bring up in the full committee, Senator.
Including spark money.
Yeah, well, if that's eligible, of course.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We are adjourned.